Hey friends, so how do you go from here to here if you live outside of the United States? We are going to cover that on today's episode, so check it out. Alright, so my name is Yuri, this is YNC Comics, and today's episode is especially for those friends that live outside of the United States and are always asking, how do I send my comic book to the CGC if I don't live inside the States? And technically speaking, the rule of thumb is that the same rule applies whether you live inside the States or outside the States. But there's a couple of differences. We are going to talk a little bit about all the organizations, but most specifically about the CGC. But out there is different companies that you can send your comic books to. CGC is the most known, but there's also CBCS, PGX, Halo, and Halo it's only for Australia, so keep that in mind. Here I have a couple of CBCS so you guys can see it. I don't know if you guys can see it. And then the other one that I was mentioning is PGX. It's right here. This one is in the United States as well. I've never sent it to Halo because, hello, I'm not in Australia, but Australia has their own company and their name is spelled HALO. The other one that is fairly new, so I don't have a comic book from there. I haven't submitted a comic book through them, but they're fairly new and becoming a little popular. It's EGS. And for that one, in order for you to send your comic book, you actually have to reach out to the company. So I will add the link on this page, on this video, for you to reach out to the company and they'll send you the forms and all the details on how you can send your comic book to them. But we're going to talk specifically about the CGC today. And why? Because it's one of the ones that I use the most to send my comic books, especially this one right here, Amazing Spider-Man number 14, the first appearance of the Green Goblin. And then why I'm showing them to you, because I want you to see the difference on the labels. This one is Ultimate Fallout number 4. But this one is important because it's the first appearance of Miles Morales, which is becoming very popular right now. If you haven't seen Spider-Verse, you should check it out. It's on Netflix. I actually love the cartoon. I don't know. It's one of my favorite Spider-Man movies. And anyway, and then CGC has different labels and all that, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But the most important thing that you need to know is that in order for the CGC to accept your comic book, you have to have a membership with them. That's one of the things that it's required. And it is important to note that there is different levels of membership. And it's the lowest level is the associate level, is $25. It includes full access to the online resources such as the forms, specifics. You get some privileges, meaning access to their website. And then they send you a little mailing packet, so how to send your comic books with instructions. But if you have a premium package, you actually get a 10% discount in all the submissions that you do. On top of that, they give you $150 credit for your CGC account online, and that's the premium account. Then they have the elite account. That one is $299. Of course, being elite usually implies that you get special perks. And this one, the special perk about this one is that sometimes they have exclusive events such as signature series. Especially right now with COVID, there's not a lot of events going on. So CGC is having a lot of behind closed door events where your favorite artist may be available. Maybe it's your favorite artist that they're hosting an event with. And if you send your comic books by X date, you'll get a signature on your comic book. And therefore, you will get a signature label. You see this one right here, it has the gold label. It's because the signature comic book, they get a slab for you, but they also get it witnessed because they saw who was signing it. It was one of their exclusive events, if you were to choose that. So the more you pay, the more perks you get. I will tell you that in the United States, every single state in the United States has authorized dealers from the CGC. What does that mean? That if you live inside the United States, as long as you find an authorized dealer from the CGC, you can actually walk into the dealer, drop off your regular comic book. We were talking about that earlier. You can drop off your regular comic book to this dealer and they'll package it for you prepare it, and mail it out to the CGC. The good thing about that is that it's an authorized dealer. So if anything were to happen in your comic book, they take full responsibility for it. So I would recommend that you actually use authorized dealers if you live inside the United States. But this video is about what did you do if you live outside the United States? Good news, there is authorized dealerships or dealers outside of the United States. There is, I will tell you, one of the ones that has the most dealers is Canada. It's our neighboring country. So they have more than 19 dealers that are authorized through the CGC. So if you live in Canada, good for you. You get to go to an authorized dealer. But there's also one in Australia. There's one in Greece, one in Ireland, one in New Zealand, one in the Philippines, South Africa, Spain, para mis amigos españoles, Switzerland, and the UK has 8 authorized dealers. So as you can see, they are pretty much all over the place. The one place that they don't have authorized dealers, and I'm so sorry, my friends, is in Central America and South America. I know. But the only way you can send your comic book if you live in Central or South America is through a regular post office, through your country's post office. But I'm pretty sure there's other organizations that you can use, like FedEx or UPS, one of those that are international that you can use as well and get it all mailed. I did do a video in Spanish because most of you probably speak Spanish if you live in those countries. So check that video out, but I made that video in Spanish to help you guys out in South and Central America. Anyway, let's focus about this video. So, if you do a mail-in the CGC's website, you actually can find all the forms, and you just remember you have to have a membership with the CGC so you can access these forms, and you can download the form, fill out all the information about your comic book, and then print the form, package your comic book really well, put the form with the comic book, and take it to a post office, right? Because you're international, you're outside the United States. Remember that depending on the size of your package, that's how much you're gonna pay for postage. So you gotta be mindful of that. This one here has 2 comic books. And why does it look a little bit big? Because, well, I wanna make sure that my comic books make it safely. So they are well wrapped with bubble and all this protective carton around the comic book to protect it. So just keep that in mind. And now the CGC has a lot of services that they can provide for you besides just slabbing the book for you. They actually do the grading, but besides that, they can press your comic book. They can cross over regrade your comic book in case you got an additional signature or anything like that. They can open it and regrade it for you. There's a risk about doing those things, and I have made a couple of videos about that, so keep that in mind. They can rehold it for you. Let's say I drop this and it breaks. I can send it in again and they will actually reslab it for me. They can restore my comic book. I found a really cool comic book that once had like somebody was doing doodles in it, probably as a kid comic book, of course. So if you want to restore your comic book, they can do that too. So just remember, the more services you add, the more you pay. And I've done that with a couple of comic books. I remember this one, I actually paid a little bit extra because I wanted to make sure that it was in the best condition it could be before slabbing my book. So before putting in this nice cover. So keep that in mind. And then you choose your services. Depending on what year your comic book is, that's how much the services charges will be. So it is good that you do it online through CGC, because when you are online, it is asking you all these questions. What year is your book? Is it modern or is it golden age? What age is it? That also adds to it. And then it could be for $20 up to $55. It all depends. And one thing that is new about the CGC that we haven't talked really about, it's that they're also grading cards. But we'll make a video about the cards that they're grading, because that's something new. But one thing also that they can do for you is besides the regular comic books that they're putting together with a blue label. I mentioned the signature series, that they can also get signatures for you now. They can witness the signature. You can just send a regular comic book and they can get the signature for you and then cover it. But again, that's an additional price. And the other comic book store, the other grading companies do the exact same thing. So they also have signature series and regular series. And so just look out for that when you're filling out the forms online. And then again, they also have special events, and that's what I was talking to you about. If they have an artist that is available and you are a member of the CGC, they'll send you an email and they'll notify you. We have so and so available these days. Send your comics by X date so that you can get a signature. You pay extra, but at least you get first notification about those events. And right now with COVID not being able to go out and be out and about, it's a great opportunity to have. And then remember that depending on the labels that you get, it's the condition of your book. It's also what your book is all about. And we made a video about the CGC and what the labels mean. So check the video out as well, because it'll give you more details about how the CGC works and the grading and what their grades mean. So I'm not going to go into that because we made a book about that. But one thing that is very important if you are outside of the United States is that you do use a company that is reliable to mail your comic books. And one thing that I will tell you, a lot of times collectors, they don't want to put the right amount of their comic book. They want to guesstimate the lowest value of the comic so they can save on money, because depending on the value of your comic book, the CGC also charges you. I will tell you, do not do that. If your comic book is worth $200, please put $200, because if something happens to your comic book on the mail, on the way to the CGC, and it gets lost or damaged, CGC will compensate you based on what you put on that form. So it's very important that you are very honest on that form. And make sure that you pack it really well. The more protected your comic book, the better. So use a reliable source of post office. If your post office is reliable in your country, great. If not, pay a little extra to send it through a reliable source like FedEx or UPS or DHS, whatever it is that you have in your country. I will go the extra mile, because these comic books mean something for you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sending it to the CGC to get them slapped and protected, right? And then, again, I was talking to you about insurance. So make sure that you are very honest in your forms, because those forms help you as well if something happens to your comic book on its way to the CGC. And another thing is, if it's international, it takes a little bit longer. So keep that in mind, because right now, rumor has it that the CGC is backed up on orders. They have so many books coming in that it's taking them a while. So if your comic book gets misplaced once it's in CGC, that little form can help you a lot. So make sure you're honest in your forms. And then I'm just going to put here on the screen a little bit of what the grades mean, what the letters mean when you got your comic book back from the CGC, what these letters mean, what these numbers mean, all that, so you can check it out. But of course, the higher and closer to a 10, the better. The closer to a 2, the saddest. That's how the condition of your comic book is. But in conclusion, I am sorry to say this, but if you are outside of the United States, the risk of sending your comic book are high. It's a high risk. But hey, you have to take risk in life. So if you want to test it to see how reliable your system is, your post office is, maybe send a comic book that you're not too attached to, but you would like to get grade. And I know that's hard, because when you submit a comic book to get grade and you're paying for it, more than likely you're attached to that comic book. But it's a risk that you have to take. And then if you're in a country that has an authorized dealer from the CGC, go through that route. I think it's the best. Don't risk it. Just go through an authorized dealer. And then the other thing is, once we have Comic Cons, hopefully soon, But once the Comic-Cons come back, a lot of these countries may have a Comic-Con. So I will say check out their website, CGC's website, because it's my understanding that in Mexico especially, there is a big Comic-Con and they usually have authorized dealers that fly into Mexico to be in this Comic-Con. So check out events in your local in your country, because there might be an event where an authorized dealer may be present and you can actually drop off your comic book at those events. So I hope this was helpful for you with information. Stay tuned. We're gonna do more episodes, and remember that we are gonna do a special one on the trading cards that CGC is now accepting and grading. Anyway, if you'd like to hear more about a specific topic related to comic books and CGC or anything like that, please comment, let us know, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time.